Houston, 3. Got it. The freshman delivers.
When a team make a run, and the basketball game is made of runs, our guys did an amazing job of keeping their mental stability and understood that this is a game of runs, and how they responded was perfect. Because this is a tough team that we faced. We knew it coming in. We prepared for it. We watched it on film, and we knew every possession matters when you're playing against Buffalo.
Great. That was my first time playing in front of fans, even though I'm a sophomore. The atmosphere that the Maiden Ridge run was great. You know, the Michigan fans in general, which is great. It was loud in there. That was definitely loud. It's way different than last year. But the energy and the atmosphere is great. I hope we continue to play off that. That really helped us during the stretch where we went on that little drought. The energy that they brought. So,
I mean, obviously you don't want to lose the lead and make it close. Juwan probably got a couple more gray hairs from that, but I think it was a good test for us. A good showing of resilience, because we are a younger team. So I feel like things like that will definitely help us down the stretch.
All right. Good afternoon. This afternoon live. Thanks to the Big Ten Network for that Caleb Houston 3. And you heard Juwan Howard, also Terrence Williams, and Hunter Dickinson after last night's victory at Chrysler Center, as we're ready to tip this one up here on this Thursday, this afternoon live. Ladies and gentlemen, Adam Schnepp, you see on the screen, if you're watching right now, if you're listening on the pod, he is here, and he is the senior editor of TMBR, and it's great to see him. And what's going on, Adam?
Hey, Dennis, thanks for having me. It's great to be here.
Oh, man. Well, you know what? We're getting fired up for the weekend. You got hockey tonight. You got hockey tomorrow. You got both football and basketball going on the weekend, and that football game, I don't know, the stakes seem pretty high. We're going to get to that, coming up. But let's start with basketball. It's fresh. It happened last night. They raised a banner. They looked like they were going to run Buffalo out of the building. That did not happen. It ended up being quite the game. But what were some of your impressions? What did you think of Michigan's performance last night?
Yeah, kind of a tale of two halves, huh? Saw a number of interesting things. Saw a little bit of lineup tinkering in the first half, and you can see just how big this team can be if Juwan chooses to put a lineup like that out there. I thought that was pretty interesting. And then you saw, I think the second half was a great test just to see what the lineups look like and what they can do when a game gets down to single digits. A good way to open up the season with a little bit of a test that way.
Yeah, I think for me, the surprise, even going back to the exhibition contest that they played at Wayne State on Friday, one of the first guards off the bench, or the first guard, Adrian Nunez, that was different, and that was a little surprised. We know they had some injuries on Friday, and we know also that Zeb Jackson wasn't available yesterday, but that's a little bit of surprise. And then to your point there with these lineups, when you have a 6'11" forward or center at Moussa Diabate, and you're putting him out there with a 7'2" Hunter Dickinson. I even think it was Robbie Hummel on the game last night. So that's an NBA lineup.
Yeah, it is. It's a matchup nightmare, right? And you saw Diabate can pass. He can get to the basket. I thought his defense was a little bit better than I expected it would be. Did a little bit of everything. And, not to be overshadowed, Caleb Houston, I thought, was also as or more impressive. Just so smooth. These guys, obviously, they come in with the 5-star profiles, and you expect a 5-star to eventually become that type of player, but these guys I thought looked really good right out of the gate.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I was ready. Diabate had the 7 points in the first half, and he was a real stat filler when you go through it. What do you have? 7 points all in the first half, 5 boards, 3 steals, 2 blocks. I mean, they're pretty awesome.
Yeah, 3 assists too. A little bit of everything.
Yeah, and I'm not stealing anybody's thunder or anybody. We talk about every single guy on that team, but Diabate, even in that exhibition against Wayne State and watching him, I'm like, man, this guy's fun. It's like you just don't know what he's going to do next. He can run, he can pass, he can dunk. What can he do? Like maybe he's going to sell popcorn. Maze Pop coming up at the next game, but it's one of these things where it feels like you know what, he was a 5-star. Like to your point, Caleb ranked number 8 overall. But, Diabate was there at 25. So it's not like a huge shock that he's out there doing all these things. But it's one of these things like, well, what can he do? And it's just been super exciting, I think, in the exhibition. And then, of course, last night.
One other thing I thought was interesting, Dennis, was when the game did get close there in the second half, Houston was in the game. So if you're looking for who Juwan trusts as far as the younger guys go, it looks like he's already earned that, and his minutes reflected that, I think, in the second half. Thought that was
he hit his first shot, and then in the second half, there was one time he airmailed one, but then to come back and knock one down right after that shows supreme confidence in your shot, not shying away from it. And it didn't look like he let everything come to him. There wasn't anything where you're like, oh, he forced that one, or, that wasn't a good shot. Every shot looked like, you'd say, hey, nice job there. Maybe he could have finished on that one, went up and dunked it, or finished a little bit better, of course, making it, but he got fouled. So what are you going to do there? I think he gets passing grades. I think everybody actually gets a passing grade last night.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. And I think, to your point about sort of the way that he plays within himself and within the system, and that seems to be kind of a quality he has beyond his years there. And then Hunter Dickinson, if we're just talking about forwards and centers, Hunter Dickinson obviously was himself, which is good to see. And I think he had the kind of game that you'd expect an All-American to have, to the point where it's not even really discussed that much. I feel like, from what I've read, from what I've heard so far, we're talking about, the forwards, the younger guys, and Dickinson just went about his business, but he's still going to be a heck of a problem for, I think, every team in the Big Ten.
Yeah, I mean, his the accolades speak for themselves, but he's a monster. He's I think he's one of the great basketball players in Michigan history. I mean, that's how good he is. And, he's going to be a problem for the opponent. It's great news for Michigan. Everybody can feed off of him and what he's able to do because he demands a double team. So that's why Michigan, being number 6 in the country, and there's going to be some teams that are going to lose this weekend. And Michigan will be, heading up maybe inside the top 4 by the next time the poll comes out. But all of that, there's nothing that's out of reach for this team this year, Adam.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And, they did that with, I would say, limited guard play last night, right? Eli Brooks, we saw, can run the 1 if he needs to, and that's great. That's wonderful to have somebody at the 2 that has that kind of versatility. But this isn't a guard-driven team necessarily. And so if your guards do get in foul trouble, like last night, you see that it didn't really slow Michigan down that much, and that's probably going to be important here as the season rolls on.
Well, I mean, I think they're stacked and they're deep up front and in the backcourt. I think in different games we'll be talking about Devontae Jones and Frankie Collins, and when Zeb comes back, and how Nunez fits in there, and then whatever different lineups they're doing on the front line. All good problems to have. And things do look fantastic for him. I definitely want to get your thoughts as I switch it over to the football field in the game on Saturday as we think about Penn State, and just what kind of game are you expecting noon in State College?
Sure. A very difficult game as I'm looking here at Penn State's defense, to be honest. That's a really good defense. They have very good defensive ends. They have good linebackers, and their corners and their safeties are both excellent in coverage. So this, to me, is a matchup issue for Michigan, barring injury. Don't remember his last name, but number 17, the defensive end, his numbers and what he looks like on film, it's akin to an Ojabo or Hutchinson type player. That's a matchup problem right off the bat, right? Now, whether Luketa can go or not, that's going to be huge, I think, because as I look here at the numbers on Pro Football Focus, Jesse Luketa, the other defensive end there, he's solid all around. He's a good pass rusher. He's a good run defender. He's even fairly good if they drop him into coverage every once in a while. And if he doesn't play, complexion of the game changes to me, especially considering what Michigan's dealing with at running back and the injuries there. We still don't really know who can go and who can't. It's always nice to have Hassan Haskins in the lineup, but for Michigan's offensive line, this is one of the, I think, stiffer tests they've faced this season.
Yeah, I think that Penn State secondary is the best in the Big Ten. And, just looking at, you're talking about some of those numbers there. I know that Travion Henderson hit him for over 150 yards on the ground, and Illinois as a team went over 350 yards on the ground. So maybe it'll be Hassan Haskins being the key, and if he can shoulder the load. I know he had 27 carries. Maybe he'll go 30. Maybe he'll go 40, whatever it takes there. But, that seems to be the key to me. But it feels like it's going to be a 20-17 type game. Get into the fourth quarter, you're going to have to make some plays if you're in the Michigan passing game. But if you're able to run the ball, that's going to be helpful for you. And being on the road, this one does seem like a toss-up.
Yeah, I mean, if you have a 100% healthy stable of running backs ready to go, I like Michigan's chances. To your point about their run defense, but not a knock on Haskins. He's incredible. Obviously, he's incredible. It's just as far as how many dimensions does Michigan have? I don't know, because I think that the passing game is going to come down to Cade McNamara's timing versus the offensive line's protection, and that includes, the coverage there from their excellent secondary, like you were mentioning. So this might come down to what Haskins can do, and then obviously comes down to what the offensive line can do as far as letting him get to the line of scrimmage and then, doing what he does, where he makes a guy miss and pick up 3-4 yards, etc.
Let me get some quick hitters for you here, Adam. When you look at the possibility of the injuries for Michigan, and whether it's Andrell Anthony, Eric All, Blake Corum, it seemed like Jamon Green, Harbaugh calling him and his brother fast healers. It seems like All was, as they say, trending in the right direction. So I don't know, out of all those guys, and maybe there's some other players that I'm missing here, whose injury do you think would be the hardest to overcome for U of M?
I was thinking about this earlier, and I actually think it's Green. And I think that's because of what Penn State does on offense. Their running game is middling, and that's fine for them because they have Sean Clifford, they have Jahan Dotson, and they have other excellent receivers. And so if they drop back and pass, advantage them, especially if Michigan's thin, which it does seem like they might be. So I think that injury could really impact how this game goes for Michigan.
All right, when you put it all together, you're looking at the numbers, you're matching up everything here. What did you come up with? What kind of score you're thinking about? We don't hold it to you. You can change your mind before Saturday. I said 20-17, but Adam, what are you thinking?
I think it's going to be right in that ballpark. I think you're right. I think as I look through things, I think that Penn State is going to hit some big passes. I don't think they're necessarily going to be touchdowns, and I think that then red zone defense is going to become really important. I could see Penn State getting down the field in a hurry and then ending up with a couple of field goals to come from that. And if I had to make a prediction, I think I'm going to have to go, let's see, Michigan 24, Penn State 20.
I'll take it. What are your plans for the game? What are you doing on Saturday?
I'll be watching and then writing a takeaways piece right afterwards.
All right. We'll look for that on TMBR after the game. The Maize and Blue Review. You're doing a great job there. It's the senior editor. It's been a lot of fun just a weekend, and I can't wait. It's the first time I talked with you. Brandon Justice, our recruiting editor, was saying, "Oh yeah, Adam's great and everything." And he said, "You talked with him?" I said, "I haven't really met him, so I don't know if I'd know you from Adam if we were out of the street, but I would now." So it was great talking with you, and I look forward to doing it again.
Yeah, I do too. Thanks, Dennis. Great talking to you too.
Yeah, have a great day. We'll look for that piece coming up on Saturday. I think we may have our next guest here. Let's go. There's this button. Oh, maybe not. Let's check it in here. How about that? Let's text our next guest. Let's take Adam's stuff off the screen here. And let's see. Let me just send a quick text here. Let's listen to a little more of that audio. Here's little Caleb Houston from the Big Ten Network.
Houston, 3. Got it. The freshman delivers.
And right here is Michigan coach Juwan Howard.
When a team make a run, and the basketball game is made of runs, our guys did an amazing job are keeping their minister ability and understood that this is a game of runs, and how they responded was perfect. This is a tough team that we faced. We knew it coming in. We prepared for it. We watched it on film, and we knew every possession matters when you're playing against Buffalo.
All right, and here is Terrence Williams. Right here.
Great. That was my first time playing in front of friends, even though I'm a sophomore. The atmosphere that the Mays Ridge brought was great. You know, the Michigan fans in general, which is great. It was loud in there. That was definitely loud. It's way different than last year. But the energy and the atmosphere is great. I hope we continue to play off that. That really helped us during the stretch where we went on that little drought. The energy that they brought helped us. So it was a great atmosphere.
All right, and one more before we connect with our guest, and that comes from Hunter Dickinson, was asked about the ball game.
I mean, obviously you don't want to lose the lead and, make it close. Jerome probably got a couple more gray hairs from that, but, I think it was a good test for us, a good showing of resilience, because we are a younger team, so I feel like things like that will definitely help us down the stretch.
All right, there he is, Hunter Dickinson, and we're having connection problems video-wise with Jim Scarcelli, but let's go ahead and fire up the phone here and see if we can get him via the phone. You just have to look at me, and that's all right.
Hey, Danny.
There he is, Jim Scarcelli, joining us here on this afternoon live. Hey, it's great to talk with you, Scar. Everybody's fired up about the football game this Saturday and then the basketball game last night. Let me hear your thoughts first on the basketball game. I know you watched it. Juwan Howard's team, they have lofty expectations this year, and, they look pretty good for openers last night.
Hey, I wouldn't want anything better for us if I'm coaching that team, because that's a good team. Buffalo's a good team, and just to schedule them, take some courage like some of those announcers talked about. But I thought we looked good. I thought our freshmen looked good. Hunter looks leaner, stronger. He's better. I thought they're giving Nunez a shot. He's got a lot of playing. I was surprised as much of an opportunity they gave him. Williams looked good. He looked better. He looked leaner. You can tell these kids are in the weight room. He made some shots. He looks confident out there. I'm going to tell you a guy, I analyze all of them, Danny. I'm going to tell you a guy that I'm big on. I watched him last year in high school, is Frankie Collins. He's going to be the next Carson Edwards. You watch that little point guard, that kid he's going to be something special. But we all wanted to see the transfer guard, Devontae Jones, and I thought he was everything we talked about. He's a good defensive player. He made his free throws. He's a smart kid. He ran the offense a little bit. Diabate, you guys talked about him. You can see the 5-star talent. He's a rim protector. He's got a little offensive game. The only thing he's got to make free throws. We got to make free throws at the end of a game. So, but yeah, he is definitely a 5-star kid. Houston looked good. You can see the intelligence. He's a skilled kid. He can make shots. But with him, if I'm looking at Michigan, he's got to defend. He's got to get stronger. He's got to defend a little better. What else did I see? Brendan Johns, he's getting an opportunity. He's just still making mistakes. He's got it. The moving screens and some of those kind of things. But Eli Brooks is him and Hunter were our leaders. Without them, we don't win that game. Eli Brooks he's the calming leadership influence on our basketball team, and he's solid, man. But it's a great win. I think we'll improve on defense more than anything. We got a lot of room on defense, and they'll get some of that switching straightened out. But we should be. I'm feeling great. I thought it was a great win.
Yeah, I think you're on top of everything there. All the stuff that you're saying there rings true. Your point about Frankie Collins. This is why it's set up so nicely here when you analyze this team and just look at the rest of the year. I think Frankie Collins can be all those things that you said. They don't need him to be that right away. They can bring him along, whether it's spoon feeding him, whether it's making him earn it, whether it's making him, share some time. They got Zeb Jackson, who was out because of an illness last night. But, when you have two 23-year-olds in the backcourt with Devontae Jones and with Eli Brooks and a calming effect, you can spot Frankie Collins and, whenever, maybe by the time you get to February, he's up to full speed and you won't call him a freshman anymore. But that's a luxury that every coach loves to have, to be able to spot guys like that. And it's a little bit true with some of the guys up front too, because they do have a little bit of a rotation here when you're starting to talk about bringing in Terrence Williams on the front line, and they could go big and put basically 2 7-footers out there if they have Diabate. So a lot of nice rotations, a lot of things to like on the front line and in the backcourt.
Yeah, definitely a lot of depth. Yeah, he's got a lot of places he can go for different things. And you guys talked about the change in the lineup. I didn't know if he wanted to do that offensively or if what Buffalo did forced him to go bigger. But Diabate, he's definitely going to give you the ability to defend he can defend a lot of different positions. He's a really athletic kid. So if you get him caught on a guard or whatever, he can defend. But yeah, there were a lot of good things, and there's nothing. They're going to do nothing but get better because they're so young. So many young guys that were getting opportunities out there. But it was good to see the older guys get, like Williams, like I said, show improvement. He's going to challenge Johns for a lot of playing time, I think.
Yeah, and you know what? Sometimes some of these guys, they relish the role of a sixth man. Maybe that's what it'll be here. He's just a sophomore. It was the first time he really played in front of it was the first time he played in front of a crowd. After last year, he talked about that after the game. And so, maybe it'll be perfect. Like, Shawnee Brown could have started last year for Michigan, but, he was such a great energizer coming off the bench, and, those things develop. I like that. Diabate, he was 1 of 4 from the free throw line, but Scar, when you watch his form, it looked pretty good. I'm expecting him to be better than certainly a 25% shooter, but he looks like he could be a 60-70% free throw shooter. All the form, the release, and everything up there looked really natural and looked pretty good. So maybe that's just a wobble in the first game.
Yeah, it's just that's his first game, dealing with the stress of his first college game. Yeah, you're absolutely right though. The technique was there. You could see the skill. He just needs more repetitions, more pressure free throws. And he'll be squared away. But like I said, we got to we got to do a better job on defense. We gave him a lot of open looks, uncovered guys. We didn't switch as well as we should have in many situations. But Juwan will get that straightened out.
Yeah, he's got a few games. You don't overlook anybody, but Prairie View coming up this Saturday, and then they've got 2 tests next week. A late night game against Seton Hall. We'll see. They were picked in the middle of the pack in the Big East, and then UNLV out in the Mountain West. That's going to be a late night game. But, the Running Rebels were picked in the bottom half out there in the Mountain West. So if those seem like they can be 2 wins, at least on paper, and, they'll be able to sort some of those things out, defensive rotations and everything. Not like the curtain goes up and everything's perfect, although in the first half, through the first 15 minutes, it was about perfect.
Yeah, everything looked great. Yeah, we were a pretty confident bunch then. And that's why I think this was a great win because you really got tested mentally. We did some great things. We got the big lead. Everybody's happy. Everybody's smiling. And then guess what? They're making a run. And now we get tested. Now we got to make pressure free. And we didn't make a couple pressure free throws, which was a little discouraging. But we had to make some free throws there because they got down to 5 points at one time. And that's why it was a great win because we were up, down, and, we were challenged mentally. And Juwan shows his poise, and the kids showed poise. And just a lot of great things. I did take a look at Seton Hall. Seton Hall, they got like 4 transfers. They got a whole new team. There'll definitely be a test. So, and then we go to UNLV. I don't know if we're playing on their home court, but that's basically a road game. So those would be competitive games.
Yeah, and you know what? I know you coached some basketball, Scar. And unfortunately, I can tell you that I've missed the front end of some 1-and-1s, and nothing the coaches hate more, or yourself you hate more than not being able to make that first one. And that's right around 7 minutes to go. It gets down to 5, and it's like, woo, but they played some defense. Terrence Williams came up with a big shot. They played some more defense, came up. Caleb Houston hit one, and away they go. So they had some pressure points there. It just wasn't a runaway win. So everything looking good there. Anything that I didn't hit on with the basketball team before we go over and hit the football game?
No, I took a look at Ohio State. I took a look at Michigan State. It's just going to be about how fast are we going to improve? How fast are we going to come together? Because those teams are beatable. And I think you guys hit everything today, but we should feel confident as Michigan basketball fans.
It's an exciting season after what happened last year. There's every indication to be just as excited for this year after the debut last night. All right, Jim Scarcelli, let's move over to the football game. It's just going to take place Saturday in Happy Valley. These two teams, Penn State's strength looks like it's their because it is their pass defense. Michigan's strength, I would say, is their rush offense. So when you think about Michigan having the ball here, this seems like it's going to be a Hassan Haskins day, maybe getting 30 carries. You think he's up to the task there, or am I missing something?
I mean, we got to be balanced. We're going to have to do both. They're in my opinion, Danny, and we talked about. I think this is going to be the best defense we've seen to this point. I think they have the best players we've seen. They got 4-star, 5-star kids in there. Their defensive line is solid. They'll rotate a bunch of guys. Their linebackers are solid. They got a lot of depth, and their secondary is strong. But we're going to have to do both. We're going to have to do both, and I'm really impressed with their coach. I think their coach is really good. He's gonna give Josh Gaddis problems, and we gotta be ahead of the game. We gotta win some of the chess match. But they got real good athletes, and we gotta secure. If we secure the ball like we've been, let's secure the football. And they're gonna stop us at times, but if we can secure it and do a little bit of both, put them in conflict, we should be okay on offense.
Well, let me flip you over onto the defensive side. Penn State, this is not a team that's looking to pound the ball between the tackles. Sean Clifford is going to be airing it out. Like, that's the name of the game for them. They can't run the ball, so it seems like a real test for the Michigan secondary. But I like how it sets up for the Michigan defense. Of course, when you have Hutchinson and Ajabo coming in and meeting at the quarterback like they can do, nothing's going to help your secondary out more than a stout pass rush. And right now, Michigan's getting that. So I think it's advantage Michigan when Penn State has the ball. I like how it sets up, at least as we're sitting here on a Thursday looking at the game.
I really like what we're doing schematically with Coach McDonald against this offense than what we've done in the past. I'm going to keep beating up the pass, but I think we're a little sounder. We're a little better structurally, I think, to stop this. This is an RPO team. This is a true RPO team, run pass option. Clifford's going to put the ball in the gut of his running back down there every down, and then he's going to make some decisions. He's either going to give it to the back, or he's going to keep it himself, or he's going to drop back and throw it. But their offense usually starts with that. And I don't know if it's, they haven't scored as much in the past, but they're still tough to defend. And, we got to stop the quarterback run. The quarterback run is a play that Rutgers ripped us with. This is really the same thing we saw against Rutgers, only a little better version of it. That's how I look at their offense, because they're doing a lot of the same stuff. And they're just a little better at it. And they got a tough quarterback that can run just like Rutgers did. And we got to do a better job of stopping that play. But, we got to get off the field on third down. They were unbelievable against Maryland on third down. How many third down conversions they've had? I don't know if you looked at that film, but they were unbelievable. We got to get off the field on defense. But I feel good. They're not going to run the running back against us like they have in the past with what we're doing schematically.
The film that I did watch, again, was the Michigan State tape. And, the one thing that Michigan State did is they presented that tempo that got Michigan and some personnel switches and things like that. Indiana came out of the gate and tried a little bit of that. But, they got behind and whatever. It wasn't their bread and butter. I would think Penn State will have looked at that. And with an RPO, they'll be, I think, standing up at the line and having the ability to go quicker. What have you seen there from Michigan during that Michigan State game, since the Michigan State game? Is that something that you think when you talk about Mike McDonald, that's a real correctable type thing when you talk about the personnel swapping in and out?
Oh, yeah. I don't know where that went wrong against Michigan State. You got a guy up in the press box that's looking at personnel for the opponent, and somebody against Michigan State must have thought they were making a personnel change and communicated that to coach because he's on the field and he's not able to see that because it's on the other side of the field. That somebody in the press box probably miscommunicated that on those occasions. And I'm sure that assistant coach had an earful, but I believe that because we didn't really have that problem other than that game. I think we may have had it once against Nebraska, but it's not a constant thing. I don't know if Michigan State was doing something to deceive that, like they were making changes, and and deception is okay. It's part of football. But whatever it is, we made mistakes. We weren't getting proper communication. I don't see that as being a problem. We just got to get, because I just don't see that being a problem anymore. I'm sure that problem is corrected.
Jim Scarcelli, you see his name there on the bottom of the screen. He's on the line here and talking about Michigan Penn State football after talking about the basketball game last night. So what type of game are you anticipating here? You think more of a lower scoring variety? Adam Schnepp said 24-20. I'm looking at 2017. I would say that's in the lower side here. What kind of game are you expecting?
Yeah, I think you guys are right in the ballpark. I'm right around there, 27-26 Michigan. I'm right there, last second field goal. They have the ability to score. Rutgers moved us on it, same type of stuff. We got to do a good job, but we can move the ball against that defense. So it's going to be tough moving it, but Michigan with a kick at the end, 27-26.
Ooh, I don't know if I'm ready for a kick at the end type game, but if it goes through, I'll take it. I'll take it. All right, well, Scar, I've got two features that I want to get to, and I want you involved in both of them: the Michigan Recruiting Spotlight and the Memorabilia Minute. For those that don't know, you played at Michigan, coming out of Warren, Michigan. You could have gone anywhere. You went to Michigan. You played with Jim Harbaugh. You played with Bo. On that coaching staff were Gary Moeller and Lloyd Carr. And then later, as you were a high school coach, you were involved with the Michigan football camp for, I don't know, so that's with Moeller and Carr. So you coached with those guys as well later on, at some of the practices, whether it was with Rodriguez or Hoke or whatever else. You've been around an awful lot. I wanted to ask you about the Michigan football camp and just how much over the years you think that you've identified players there and just how valuable that is when it comes down to the recruiting process.
Yeah, I go way back with the Michigan football camp. I'm going to give you a little history here, Denny. 1975 is what I believe was the first year of it. Bill McCartney was the guy that had the idea, and Tom Fagan was the Ypsilanti High School football coach. Those two together started the first camp. And people really weren't doing it then, and they wanted to put on a great camp to teach football. And I don't know how much recruiting was part of the motivation, but it was a great week for the kids, and the coaches really prided themselves on giving the kids their money's worth and teaching them football. It was the technique camp. They called it technique because we're going to teach technique. It was a 1 week camp. You had about 150. It got to the point I went in 1979 and 1980 as a junior and senior in high school, and there was 150 college coaches. There'd be 150 high school coaches, and there were over 3,000 kids. It was the biggest camp in the country, and people came from all over the country. You had players from everywhere, California, Texas, everywhere came to this camp. And it developed a great reputation, and Michigan was using it to recruit like crazy. Yeah, they were because they were great prospects there. And I remember as a young guy, what Michigan did, they would pay for a bus, and it would start in Grosse Pointe at Grosse Pointe North High School, and that bus would go along I-94. It started at Grosse Pointe North High School. It would stop at Kettering High School, and it would stop at Mackenzie High School. And the guys that they were recruiting, they would give them the opportunity to get on that bus because some of them couldn't afford to stay at the camp. You had to have a little more money to stay at the camp. So the bus was loaded with all the highly recruited guys. I was one of the guys that was told that you can take the bus up and drive up every day. And I just remember that when that bus would pull up, even though there's 3,000 kids at that camp, Coach McCartney would be waiting right there at that bus with all the highly recruited kids from the Detroit area, the different Wayne, Oakland, Macomb counties, they would get to that bus. But that was the NCAA eventually made that illegal. But just a little story, I thought I'd throw that in. I remember meeting Bob Ufer at the camp because Bo used to walk around with Ufer, and the guys that they're recruiting, they would bring Bob Ufer around, talk to the players and I remember Bob Ufer said this to me. He says, son, the two most important decisions you're ever going to make in your life are what college you go to and who you marry. He looked at me and said, they both start with M. And, but eventually I ended up working the camp. I worked the camp for about 20 years and got to know a lot of great young coaches. And they always had a way of identifying the best players, and we would always put them in the same group. And that would be the group that, that would always get a little more attention. But it was always run by the camp was always run by the defensive coordinator. So Coach Mack ran it for many years. Then it was Coach Mo. Then it was Coach Carr. Then it was Coach Herman. And I used to send my players to the camp as a coach. I sent them every year because it was a great from a learning standpoint, but it was also great, to learn football. But it was the kids got to see, what kind of competition is out there. Every kid thinks he's a college football player. Well, send them to that camp with 3,000 kids that are really talented kids. And now you say, wow, okay, this is what this is the standard. This is what I got to get to. I'm going to throw a quote at you that I always remember. To this day, I remember it because Coach Mack started every day with it. What the mind can conceive and believe, the body will achieve. He used to have 3,000 kids barking that out every day. So mentally, there was a lot of good stuff that the coaches were instilling in kids that you might not get from your high school coach. So I thought it was great from the mental standpoint, and then they're teaching football. But and me as a coach, I got to work with a lot of the, Jimmy Herman was a friend of mine. He ran the camp for many years. So I would always change with different position groups. One year I'm working with the offensive line with Coach DeBoer, or with Coach Miles, or next year I'm working with, Stan Parrish and the quarterbacks. I remember working the camp when Drew Henson was there. This kid was a 17-year-old kid. He looked like a man. He was unbelievable. And I remember working with Braylon Edwards were there. And I used to listen to the coaches talk about the players and who they're recruiting, and it's interesting. And one of the things I used to do, because you're always, I'm a high school coach trying to learn football, and these big-time college guys, they're there trying to recruit kids. So, they don't always have time to sit down and talk with you. But we would all eat our lunch together, right? So I would find a guy I want to talk to. I remember I cornered John Harbaugh one time at the lunchroom, and, hey, John, he's sitting right next to me. Now I got him for a half hour, and we're talking football. And I remember I got our punt coverage from John Harbaugh. And it was a great opportunity for high school coaches to learn football. But the college, recruiting was a big part of it. But let me say this in defense of the Michigan coaches. They always wanted to make sure that the kids got their money's worth from a coaching standpoint. They never wanted it to just be a recruiting thing. They wanted the kids, even the kid that's not going to play college football, they wanted that kid to get a fair shake and get his money's worth. And but the camp was up and rolling for 40 years. It was great. No, not 40. From 75. Bo and Mo and Lloyd, and then when when Rich Rod got hired, that's when he kind of knocked it down to more of a one-day, just kind of more of a recruiting thing. It just became a one-day camp, and that's kind of where it stood. When Brady got the job, he tried to build it up again, and I don't know that it ever really took off like it had been. The biggest camp in the country, but Coach Harbaugh has a camp. He's got a one-day camp for young kids, like 8th grade, maybe 7, 8, 9. I don't know. And then he's got a really a half-day camp for the older kids, the 10 and 11th grade kids. So it's really become just mainly for recruiting now. And you're not going to teach a kid anything in 3 hours. That's why I looked online. That's what it is now. It's a 3-hour camp. So it's probably primarily just for recruiting now. And but that's kind of the history of it. I got to work with, I remember Butch Jones. He was a young guy at Ferris State. I remember working with Butch Jones, and I remember working with Les Miles and Cam Cameron was a young coach, and he worked the camp. And of course, John Harbaugh, he was at Cincinnati for many years as a coordinator, and I got to know John pretty good, and obviously knew him through Jim. But I'm going to say this, Danny. You know the satellite camps that Coach Harbaugh tried to initiate and had for a couple of years?
Yes.
Okay. I thought that was the greatest idea. I thought it was the best thing. You know, everybody in the NCAA talks about all the time, what's best for the kids, right? Let's do what's best for the kids. Okay, so the Michigan camp, you have to have money to come. You have to have somebody to get you there. It is what it is. Most of the kids came from the Midwest. But the satellite camp, I thought it was a great concept because everybody doesn't have, you know, the ability to come to Ann Arbor or even for an unofficial visit. People can't, a kid from all over America can't come to these different schools for unofficial visits. That was an opportunity to, you know, teach some football and let a kid in a different area of the country get exposed to Michigan and learn about Michigan. And I was so upset with that when the NCAA said, you know, you can't do that. And I remember hearing Paul Feinbaum ripping on Harbaugh about the satellite camp. And I just thought that was so wrong. You know, he's defending the SEC. You know, go back up north, leave our SEC kids alone, and, you know, don't come down here and take our kids. And I just thought it was ironic how 60 years ago they didn't want their kids. You know, they went up north to play. And here we are. Harbaugh is trying to go around the country to get, you know, give kids an opportunity to learn about Michigan. And eventually, anyway, the NCAA, you know, nixed it, so you can't do it anymore. But I thought it was a great concept. Anyway, now we're a one-day camp, and I don't know how big a factor it is in recruiting, but it used to be a huge thing because Michigan got a lot of kids. You know, they got to see him. They got to meet him. They got to watch him run drills. You got to see him lift. Gittleson would work with the guy, and, you know, you could see him run. And so it was really good from that standpoint. And you had all the MAC schools there. Every MAC school was there. Every Division II school, and you know, within 500 miles of Ann Arbor was there. You never had, but then you also know this: no one else was ever invited. No other big school, no other Big Ten school was invited. The only school I think they used to let in was Indiana, because we always had a good relationship with, you know, Coach Mallory over there and some of those guys.
Sure. You know what? A couple of years ago, I was talking with Mike Martin, who went to CC and came to Michigan as a defensive lineman. And I don't know why we started talking about camp. He started telling me the story about how he went there. And I don't think Michigan was recruiting him. I don't know how many offers he was getting, but he went over there and he was like, I just got to get the attention of Lloyd Carr. And he said, you know, he just went out there with the idea that he was just going to tear it up and show them that, you know, he deserved a scholarship. And, you know, the rest is kind of history. He went there, made a mark, and, you know, had a great week at camp. I never talked to Lloyd about that, but, you know, that was one guy. Are there anybody else that comes to mind over the years that, you know, came in that you might have just thought, hey, this is a, you know, player that is coming to camp here. We're not really interested in him. And then when he's leaving, you're thinking about, hey, let's offer this guy a scholarship.
You know, I just know that, oh boy, I don't want to, there's a couple guys that I know of that played at Michigan that had great careers that I know there was some questions about them. You know, there was some back and forth about, you know, whether they could play or not. And, God, I just don't know that I really want to talk about. I'm going to mention one kid. I do remember, I do remember back and forth discussion about Braylon Edwards. There wasn't a total buy-in from all of the coaches.
That works
and
well.
Obviously. But so anyway, that's what you would hear and that's what you would see, and you were able to, you know, every coach could watch a kid run drills. You could watch him catch passes. You know, you're right there. You got the kid for a whole week. You can see how he interacts with other players. So, you know, from a really recruiting standpoint for the coaches, they got a chance to really size a guy up. And but yeah, I do remember that discussion. And yeah.
Well, you know what? Over the days and weeks, there'll be plenty more stories and situations that will pop into your head, and you'll be able to share them with us. You said that you'll join me Saturday, 10 minutes after the Michigan-Penn State game concludes. So we'll do a post game right here. That's going to be fun. The last feature that I have here on Afternoon Live every day, I go to the Memorabilia Minute, and I pick something close to me here in studio, and I just talk about it for 1 minute. That hadn't been anything great, you know, a couple pictures, a couple cards, anything else. But I figured in your office, somebody who's been involved in football his entire life, you've got to have something that, you could tell us about here for the Memorabilia Minute that people would be interested in? Scar, what do you have?
Denny, I wish I could. I'm having a little trouble here with this technical deal here, but I wish I could show you. I have my helmet. My last football game was 1986 Fiesta Bowl, and it's sitting right behind me. I'll show it to you Saturday. We get things figured out. Okay, that helmet is right out of the locker room. Now, Big Johnny, if you're listening, I'm sorry, but I got it. I got my helmet. So the last game against Nebraska, you got your duffel bag, you got all your stuff, and but in that bag, Denny, I had another little bag because I knew that helmet was coming with me and a couple other things. So I will show you Saturday the helmet. It's sitting right behind me. It's been with me since my last football game, and that was a great memory. But that helmet will be with me forever.
Well, it's a great tease because we will see you 10 minutes after the game coming up on Saturday. Jim Scarcelli, thanks so much for coming on here and talking with us here on this afternoon live and getting us ready for Michigan Penn State coming up on Saturday.
I'll be fired up, Denny. I'll talk to you Saturday.
All right, we'll see you then. Take care, Scar. There he is, Jim Scarcelli. That is going to do it here for this afternoon live. If you like Michigan football recruiting, coming up in a few minutes, we'll be talking with Brandon Justice, the recruiting editor here. Stay tuned for that.